getting to the CV. So what does it look like? I know that there's a 4-step process that you're going to cover with us today, but before we jump into that, perhaps you can just tell us a little bit about the personal statement in particularly and why this is so important and what the outline of a good CV looks like.
Yeah, great question. So the outline of a good CV, and it'll start with the personal statement. So a personal statement is generally just about 3 or 4 lines where you strongly sell yourself as a candidate. So this summarizes your career goals. So you could just say Sharon is a 4th-year student at the University of Cape Town who has a keen interest in the nonprofit sector and is specifically looking for a role as a data scientist. So it just tells the employer a quick summary or a quick intro of who you are. So it really sets your career goals in a big light in front of your future employer. It also highlights your skills. So for example, in the example that I gave, the fact that you're a 4th-year student, the fact that you care about the nonprofit sector and that you're looking for a role within the data science field, it already just shows that you're already thinking actively about where it is that you want to go as a candidate and about the industries that you want to join or the role that you'd like to join. So it highlights those skills that are relevant to the specific career sector. It also picks out your key achievements. So for example, in this space, if I was a 4th-year student, that's definitely a big achievement, is getting to that point where you are graduating, and things that immediately signal the recruiter to see what role you would excel in. So if someone now says they want to work in the nonprofit sector as a data scientist, I already know that they're sure about where they want to go, and I already have ideas about where I can place them. Because the one thing that a lot of candidates should remember is that even though you're applying for one role at a company, there might be 7 other roles in that company where you could potentially fit in. So it's great sometimes for employers to look at your CV and maybe you're not the right fit for the one you applied for, but there's 7 other roles where they can fit you in. So your personal statement really shows how you are really thinking bigger and being more targeted. And that helps employers to also think about where they think you might excel in the team. And it also gives the employer key information about who you are and details about how they can get a hold of you. And that should also be very clear. So that pretty much is what your personal statement is. And generally, I would start with that. So, including your name and your details about your phone number, as well as your email address. Your personal statement is a great introduction on your CV. And it really can just be 3 lines, 4 lines maximum.
The most important piece to start with,
yeah,
personal statement. And it will take some work, right, to craft it well.
Mm-hmm.
It will take some work.
Yeah.
So moving into the 4 steps,
yes.
Could you talk us through the first steps and outlining your information? How best to do that?
Great. So right after you've put your name, your phone number, and your email address, and your short personal statement, if you're comfortable doing that, like Janine said, it really is a process of really perfecting that. But step 1, and most importantly, is lead with your work experience. What you always want to do is lead with the most recent work experience. And that just helps your employer to get a vision about where you are at the moment, as well as the background of where you've come from. So start with the most recent work experience. So for example, if my current role was a sales team leader, I would put sales team leader, the name of the company, and how long you've been there. So if it's 2019 to current, it shows that I've been there since 2019. If your most recent role is one that you've already ended, so your contract is finished or you've completed your internship, put that there. So sales team leader from 2009 to February 2020, for example. And then I would put 2 or 3 bullets about what it is you did exactly in your role. And this is important because these days, a lot of the same job titles do very different roles. So you want to show your employee exactly what you did so that they don't have to guess what were they selling, or what kind of clients did they deal with, or did they lead a team, or does it just mean sales team leader because they were just a sales team leader but didn't have anyone that reported to them. So put at least 3 bullet lines that explain exactly what it is you did in your role. So sales team leader 2009 to current, and then I would put there led a team of 50 in the IT sales department. So at least that already shows you led a team of 50 people and what exactly it is you were selling. So IT tools or IT systems. And then you can say sold predominantly to clients within South Africa, just so they know, did you focus on the South African client base? Did you focus on a global client base? It also just really helps your employer to see exactly what it is that you did. And then it could be face-to-face sales, or it could have been telephonic sales. So it's also specific to say that telephonic sales or face-to-face client engagement, just so the employer knows the three core things that were in your role. Again, this helps them to get a clearer picture. So because we need to see you stand out from that CV. So your work experience is key. And then I would then go from the most recent again, and then just put through anything else that you did before. If you don't have any work experience, put any internship experience that you did, any experience that you did at university or in high school that was not just linked to your academics. So if you worked in a school society, for example, if you worked at the reception desk of the school library, for example, that's also important to add in there because that does count as work experience. And if you don't have work experience, I would then lead first with the volunteer work. So have you volunteered anywhere? Because this actually does count as work experience because you're gaining skills and knowledge. So if you don't have any work experience, I would put any volunteer experience. And again, you just need to be specific about the dates, about the actual role, and 3 bullet points about what it is exactly that you did within that volunteer role. And for those who don't have any work experience or volunteer experience, lead with your education. So your educational level, again, start with the most recent. So if you're currently a 4th-year student at the University of Johannesburg, studying a degree in economics, and then 3 bullet points about what it is exactly that you're doing. So if that's your honors class, are you just writing a thesis? Or if you are still in undergrad, what does that mean? So 3 bullet points about the core focus of your current studies. So that's the step 1, is presenting your information. So your work experience, your volunteer experience, as well as your education as well.
And what's so great here is that all is definitely not lost. If you don't have work or volunteer experience, there's always a way to lead from the front with education as well.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It's definitely not the end of the road. There are other ways to do it.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to, we spoke about this a little bit earlier, the soft skills that employers are looking for, teamwork, timekeeping. What are some of the other important skills that one should mention on a CV?
Yeah, great. Thank you. I think the one thing that I just want to highlight as well here, Janine, like you said, all is not lost. And just because you weren't paid for something or haven't had any paid internship or work experience, it means that you still can add value and that you still probably gain some value from either your academic career or from any volunteer or part-time work that you've done. So another key skill that all employers are looking for is someone that has strong decision-making skills. This is extremely important because as you continue to grow in your career, we want someone that trusts themselves and feels confident to make specific decisions. And that is a skill that can be gained from so many spaces. So even in your academic career, for example, you're making decisions on a regular basis. You decided what courses you wanted to study. You had to make decisions around what questions it is that you answered on examinations or what courses you took up. So showing your decision-making skills in a society that you were a part of, and maybe you were in charge of the fundraising or the finances or being the secretary for that team, then you need to show that you had some level of decision-making skills because that will take you very far in terms of where you grow as your career. Those who are in leadership positions today show very strong decision-making skills. So that's something that you can continue to learn and build. Someone that's also good at problem solving, that's extremely important because in the day-to-day work experience that we encounter, we're always trying to solve a problem, whether it is in the space of finances, whether it is in the space of a nonprofit, whether it's in the space of technology, we're trying to solve a problem on a day-to-day basis. So showing that you're able to problem solve is extremely important regardless of what role you're in, whether you go into HR, whether you go into finance, whether you go into sales, whether you go into data analysis, you're always solving a problem. So it's extremely important that you show your problem solving skills, whether that's through the mathematics course that you took up, whether that is through again, a society that you worked in or volunteer experience, just show how you were also part of solving a specific problem. And it really also speaks to your ability to work within a team when you're good at problem solving, because when there is a problem that you're trying to solve within a team, it's important that you are proactive and come with creative ideas. Being responsible, extremely important. We all have to be responsible within the workspace. So showing that on your CV somehow is going to be a real true value add for future employers. We want to see candidates that have taken ownership of tasks. So whether you were the project manager for a short course that you took up, whether you were a tutor and had to actually mark, you had to mark students' responses or assignments. It shows that you were responsible and you had to do things on time. Quick thinking to avoid issues is extremely important. So that can be shown in multiple ways. So again, going back to if you play sports and you were the goalkeeper, you have to think on your feet at all times, quick thinking. So you can show that from being part of a team. You can show that from being in a space where you volunteered and maybe you needed to fundraise 1,000 Rand and you only got to 800 and you needed to raise another 200 Rand. What ideas did you bring to the forefront to get to that 200 Rand? So that shows quick thinking to avoid, any potential issues. So I would just encourage, again, think back to any experience that you've ever had, whether it is family business, a small business that you started by yourself at school, whether it was sitting on a society, whether it was being a tutor in your spare time, really taking those skills that you've learned and showing them to the employer, that you're actually keeping in mind that you're not just doing a job or you're not just at school, but you're learning how to perfect those skills. Someone that knows how to persevere, I think that's extremely important. It's a great life skill, whether you're working, whether you're studying. Perseverance is going to always be the one thing that keeps us all going. And it's interesting that a lot of employers will even ask you, tell me about a time when you never gave up. And it's wonderful to hear examples of some people saying they failed a course and they didn't know what to do and they decided they're going to retake the course and they passed. Or someone that talks about, it was a difficult time within university and they still had to keep going and they actually passed at a very high level and got an award for it. So it's wonderful to see that, because in the workspace, in terms of your life skills, you're going to always need to continue to persevere. So showing that as well as an example and keeping it in your mind and telling that story again shows us the kind of person that you are. Sportsmanship or teamwork, very important. So whether you worked as a part of a team in a sporting event or whether you worked as a part of a team in a specific class group project, it really shows that you're able to work with people, you're able to professionally agree or disagree, but still at the end of the day, get the job done. And that's what's extremely important. So sportsmanship or teamwork are key skills, as well as communication. So that's both your written and your verbal communication. And you can always practice this. We can all continue to learn and grow. I don't think anyone ever gets to a point where they're perfect at this, but it really is someone that's able to just continue to learn and grow. So practice this. You can practice your written communication by reading a lot more, by using apps like spell check, for example, or Grammarly to always double check your work, and to always learn how to present your work in the best way possible, as well as your verbal communication skills, which comes from, again, working with people, working in a team, playing a sport. So I think those are the most important skills that really create a very well-rounded individual that will be able to add a lot to the team.
And you've given us so many practical examples, which has been really useful. So thank you for that, because somebody might feel that, I'm not really good at social problem solving, but the practical examples you've given us apply to everyone in some space. Yeah. So those are really, really good examples to keep in mind, because my mind was ticking when you were mentioning that. So thanks for that.
Awesome.
And then hobbies and interests. You spoke a little bit earlier about the cultural alignment with an organization or potential company that you wish to work for and how important that is. Yeah. And, that companies don't want robots. They want real human beings. And particularly this year, we've seen it a lot. With people working more from home, kids in the background, dogs barking, people outside shouting. Work life has become more real. So tell us a little bit more, if you could just expand on what you mentioned earlier around hobbies and interests, that would be great.
Yeah, great. Yeah, absolutely, Janine. I think we're in a space now where, we're becoming a lot more human, right? Working from home, like you said, with all sorts of things happening in the background. And I think it's wonderful. And it's for us, it's created an amazing team dynamic because we're getting to really know each other on another more personal level. So adding your hobbies and interests is a great way to also do that. So again, to stand out from that CV piece of paper, and your employer can actually envision the kind of person that you are and how that speaks to the company culture. So the third thing that I would add to your CV after your work experience and all of that information and your skills are your hobbies and your interests, because that speaks to the kind of person that we want as a part of our team. So adding that as well just shows, again, that you are someone that can speak to the company culture and can really get along with our mission and our vision. So a lot of companies, like I said, no longer just want to have someone that just picks up the phone all day, but they actually want someone that can show other qualities that are not just your professional or academic. So I would share anything from if you enjoy bike riding, or if you have successfully completed the one run, or you do fun runs or something like that, or or you've done a walk for cancer, for example. Those are things that really speak to the heart of organizations, because gone are the days where, companies are just this corporate institution that want to just make money and move on. But rather now, a lot of companies are really focusing as well on the social good or on health and wellness. And it's become really the core of a lot of organizations. So, for example, some companies are very passionate about Mandela Day and giving back. So maybe for you, the one thing that would have stuck out from your CV was the volunteer work that you did, that a company will think, wow, that's amazing. And they also really speak to our culture of giving back. Maybe the company is really passionate about, exercise or sport for good. And when they compete in the Argus or in other races, they actually do it to maybe raise money or raise awareness by the branding and the t-shirts that they wear. That's also a nice thing for us to see on CVs or on applicants' portfolios, is that, they also are into cycling, or they're also into sport. And it's not just sport, but sport for good, for example. Or they really love running and staying active. And so do we. Maybe we have a sports team, actually. There's a previous company I worked at where we actually had a work soccer team. And it was a great way for us to do team builders and just to get along and invite families and have a braai, but also then, play against other companies as well. So when we saw applicants that were also really into soccer, for example, that also stood out for us, because we felt that they could really also belong, not just on a day-to-day doing their work, but also they can incorporate their life and what they like to do for fun. So definitely add your hobbies and interests, even if your interest is painting and art. Maybe that does speak to your creative side, and maybe we are a space of creators, advertising agencies, marketing teams. Sometimes a lot of those are also looking for someone that loves to be creative, not just in a workspace, but in their personal space. Someone that loves to build video games. I even once worked for an IT company, and we used to sponsor some of the number one gamers in South Africa with internet. And it was so nice when we had other applicants who were also into gaming, or also into developing work and creating games or virtual interesting spaces. And that spoke to us. So I would always just highlight what you are passionate about, because you always, at the end of the day, want to work for a company that aligns with your interests and hobbies as well, because it makes it more fun for you, but it also makes it lovely to see how you can fit into that space.
And then that merges the world of play and work, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not
exactly.
just a job, but you can play a little bit too.
Yeah.
And then to round everything up today in this masterclass around closing your CV, what are your final thoughts on doing that sets you apart?
Yeah, great question. And closing your CV is definitely, I think, the most important thing. So the way you started off strong with your personal statement, you also want to close it off with something that leaves your employer with some thoughts, right, and into who exactly you are. So I would always encourage any awards that you've ever won. So again, whether that was a trophy for discipline or for timekeeping at school that you won, that really also shows something extra about you that, makes you stand out from all the hundreds of applicants as well. So you can date this back even to primary school if that's when you won that award. I would put that there, a trophy for a swimming championship that you've once won, because we also want to see moments that you are very proud of, and it's great to see someone that has that extra edge. So I would add that in there if you won an award at university as well, or if you excelled and got within the highest percentage of the pass rate for your class. I would encourage that as well. Or if you won an award to travel overseas to do an internship. We've had a lot of applicants that have done that before, and it really shows that they're definitely different. And, someone else has also recognized that. So I would add any awards that you've ever won. Of course, if you haven't won any awards yet, that is no problem. It really doesn't discount. All I'm saying is that getting awards does help. But if not, then I would just add it with your references. So I'd close with the references once again, add their information just so the employer can actually contact them. But always remember to do your research before you get started and think about how your skills, your experience, your hobbies, your interests, and your awards can actually stand out to the job that you are applying for.
So if we take anything away from today, it's definitely the X factor, differentiating yourself, doing the research, and doing it well. But that being said, what we haven't spoken about yet today is the motivational letter. So I'm just going to stop screen sharing. And we would love to hear from you. What are we're not going to go into a full masterclass just in writing motivational letters, but what are some top tips that you have for candidates when they're thinking about putting that together on paper?
Yeah, great question. I would definitely say for your motivational letter, again, you need to find a way to speak to the job that you're applying for, but also make sure that you merge this with your current skills. So the way your CV is structured, it's in a more bullet point way. So it's a very high level highlight of who you are. Your motivational letter is now an opportunity for you to really sell yourself. So almost pretending like you're in an interview and they're saying, why should we hire you? That's what a motivational letter is. So every time you just get down to sit and write a motivational letter, what I would ask myself is, what is the job I'm applying for, and what are the skills that I can offer to get that job? So that's how you should think about it. Think about you having a conversation. So always open up your motivational letter with to whom it may concern. It's even better if you know exactly the name of the person that is looking at the job description. So if you've seen that the HR manager is so-and-so and they're the ones that put out that job description, I would actually then address it to them. It just gives that extra personal edge as well. And it shows that, you're not just applying widely, but you're being thoughtful. And I specifically am applying for this job. And then, of course, intro it by talking about, I would like to apply for whichever job it is, just so, again, because employers are getting a lot of information sent to them, it's nice to, first of all, start it with, who is this applicant and what are they applying for? So my name is so-and-so, and I'd like to apply for the sales team leader role that was advertised on Indeed. And then just talk about, I think I'm a great candidate for this role because, and then run with that. So in your motivational letter, I would encourage about 2 paragraphs. It doesn't have to be that long. Generally, a motivational letter is only 1 page. That's what I would encourage. And now you just talk about why you think you're the right person for that role. So that's where now your research on the company comes in. So when you say, I think I'm the right person for this role because I've noticed that your team is made up of people that are passionate about team building, passionate about making a difference in the world. And I think I can bring that to this role because I have. And then you talk about your background with whether you've volunteered somewhere or whether it's a family business that you're a part of, or whether it is a previous internship experience that you had that really opened your eyes up to something bigger. Just talk about your experiences. So bring yourself in and allow the employer to see you as a part of their team. So really sell yourself on that perspective. Also talk about the skills that you've learned. So for example, if in that particular job, they've said the key skills that we want is someone that has great communication, someone that is confident, someone that enjoys talking to clients, bring that in as well. So you can also say, I noticed on your job ad, you're looking for someone that has great communication skills. I feel like I'm that person because, and you can say, because I was a part of the debate team and I won an award for that. or I was part of the drama team and we had to tour South Africa and had to make bold speeches in front of many people, and it's something that I thoroughly enjoyed. So really bringing yourself in, or maybe you were a tutor. It meant that you had to have interactions with people, whether it was a large group or whether it was one-on-one, but also really showing your ability there, that as a tutor, you're brilliant at communication. You're good at written communication because you have to be, right, as a tutor. So really bringing yourself in, but talking about the skills that are on that job ad and bringing your skills to really match that. What I would also do then is look at the values and the mission of a company. Every company loves when we see that you're matching our mission and our vision. So for example, if our mission was to empower young students in South Africa, you can talk about maybe how you've done that, even if it's on a small scale, whether it was on a large scale. So whether it was volunteering with an organization that's part of your community, where you went out and donated books, or where you read to young children, or where you helped to paint some schools, whether you went to do a book drive or something like that, really speaking to how your mission, your passion, your vision aligns with that of the company. So that's what I would do, is really talk about the job. So make sure that they know what job you're applying for, what skills you can bring to the table that match that. You can talk about your previous job experience or your study experience that really also gave you that extra edge and equipped you with some skills. Talk about the company mission and vision and how that speaks to you. And you don't have to pick out the entire mission and vision. It could be one thing or one core value that that company has that speaks to you. And that really does help. And then in closing, just again, thanking them for their time, saying, of course, that you look forward to an opportunity to then have a further discussion about your CV, and ensure that, again, you put your name and your contact details below.
Wow, so much to take away from today. It has been wonderful. Thank you. Magical. I really loved your practical examples. I think that will give every student, and like I said earlier, even if they don't have work experience, a lot to think about. And what's really hopeful, I think, for the future is the human aspect and how we can really bring that to our CV and to the motivational letters we write. Yeah. And of course, speaking to the culture and the values of the company and positioning ourselves as humans and not as robots. Yeah. And that is what employers are looking for, along with all the soft skills that you mentioned. So this masterclass will be supplemented with a summary and a PowerPoint slide and some worksheets, so you can look forward to that too. So thank you so much for your time today, Sharon. Appreciate having you here.
Thank you, Janine. It was lovely. I really appreciate it.